Welcome to Cambridge. Now before we start, I'd like to point out that I accidentally filmed the entire day in slow motion. So for this video, you might want to pull up a chair, get yourself a cup of tea or coffee, and enjoy a very relaxing and soothing video of Cambridge. Here you can see I'm at London's King Cross station telling you all about our plans for the day. Because it's in slow motion, there was no audio. So basically, we got on the train from London and went to Cambridge. It took about 2 hours. While we're on the topic of trains, we'd just like to say a big thank you to the lady commuter who walked past us as we were sitting on our platform looking at what we thought was our train. And she said, "Where are you going?" We said, "Well, we're fine. We're waiting for this train to get on it and we're going to go to Cambridge." And she said, "No, it's the train behind this train," which we couldn't even see. And so then we quickly walked down the platform and got onto the actual train to Cambridge. So thank you to this lady, because otherwise we would have completely missed our train. Once we arrived at Cambridge station, we decided to walk into town, which is about a 20-minute very pleasant walk. Cambridge University itself began in 1209 when scholars were fleeing from riots in Oxford and took refuge here. The first college to be founded was Peterhouse in 1284, and a number of other colleges followed over the years, and today it comprises of 31 colleges. So when you go to Cambridge University, you actually do it through one of these 31 colleges, receive your education and graduate. As you'll see in this video, the city of Cambridge is very walkable. You can go and do rounds of all the different colleges, although we were just unfortunate in the fact that the colleges were all still closed for exams the day that we went, so we couldn't go into really many of the colleges. But you can see they sit right in the middle of the town, and you can go from college to a cafe to a library to a church to the markets. Fortunately for us, one of the best known colleges, King's College, was available for visiting. You pay an entry fee and then you can go and visit King's College Chapel. Now, this was established by a young King Henry VI, and he laid the first stone of the chapel on the 25th of July in 1446. But it took over 90 years and 4 more kings to complete the building of the college and chapel. Although you can't take a video while you're inside the chapel, you can take photos. So I'm showing some here, and you can see it's an incredibly beautiful building. One of the things that almost immediately catches your attention when you enter the chapel is the incredible fan vaulted ceiling. And apparently each of the roof bosses weighs 1 ton, and yet it sits there incredibly high above you and has been there since the 1500s. The chapel also contains Rubens' Adoration of the Magi, which was given to the college in 1961, and they actually lowered the floor of the chapel to accommodate installation of this painting. The inside of the chapel also has a good sort of museum section down one of the side naves that takes you through the history of the chapel, how it was constructed, all the different figures, because it was constructed over such a lengthy period of time. And astonishingly, Oliver Cromwell's soldiers used the chapel as a drill hole, and yet all the stained glass windows somehow survived, although they were taken down and hidden in World War II to protect them. Then when we stepped outside the chapel and went to the back side of King's College, which goes down to the River Cam, they had this beautiful wildflower meadow that they'd planted across the back, and you could stand there and it was incredibly tranquil and beautiful watching punters go by in the river and seeing the beautiful flowers and the incredible architecture all sitting in the same space. Having watched the punters floating by on the beautiful river, we decided that we too had to go for a punt. Now, there are a few options available. You can pay for a seat on a punt and get a guided tour down the river, or you can hire an actual punt yourself and take yourself down the river. Now, we were not foolish enough to try and punt ourselves down the river. Probably we wouldn't have moved an inch, but we did have a great time on our little tour down the Cam River, and we had a great guide who was able to tell us all sorts of interesting facts and stories as we made our way up and down the River Cam. A number of the colleges in Cambridge back onto the River Cam, and so it's called the backs of the colleges. And if you're not a student, you can't necessarily access the backs of the colleges, but what you can do is go down the river in a punt, and then you can see all of the different colleges. Another great thing to watch out for are the various bridges. Perhaps the most famous is the mathematical bridge, which is constructed of straight pieces of wood. There are a number of erroneous rumours swirling around that it was made by Isaac Newton, but that's not actually correct. And the current bridge is actually a recreation of the original wooden bridge. The covered bridge that you see is called the Bridge of Sighs, and it was thus named by Queen Victoria because it reminded her of the Bridge of Sighs in Venice. The two don't actually look all that similar, but I guess when you're the Queen and you say a bridge looks like something, then everyone else says yes, it does, and so that's what it's called now. The punting experience itself was fabulous, and it was probably for me one of the highlights of the entire trip to the UK. We were blessed with really fantastic weather, and it was relatively quiet as we were out and about. So if you ever do go to Cambridge, I would highly recommend trying out this famous local activity. Following our punting adventures, we decided to stroll back into the main part of town, and we were on the hunt for lunch. We were feeling quite hungry at this stage. We ended up at the markets, which are just off to the side of Great St Mary, which is the main church in the middle of Cambridge, and this ended up just being a really good place for a bit of a browse and a wander. We had some delicious freshly made food, and then we had a browse around the markets, which had lots of souvenirs and antiques to select from. Once we were fueled up and refreshed, we did some more exploring throughout Cambridge, visiting some museums and different sites along the way, including the Corpus Christi clock, which is kind of bizarre, I think. And we stayed on until it was time for evensong in King's College, which is definitely something worth doing if that's the type of music that you like. After evensong, we stopped for a spot of dinner at a lovely restaurant, and then it was time to get on the train and to head all the way back to London. Given the 2-hour commute time for London, it is a longer day trip, but it's certainly straightforward, and it's definitely worth doing if this is a part of England that you would like to visit.